Well, the first thing I want to ask then is your cups and your camera. Tell me the story about those.
Yeah, let's start with the cup.
Okay, so the picture on the cup was actually taken with the camera. Well, we do have 6 cups on the boat, which happens to be the same number that we have on bunks. So everybody who comes on the boat gets to choose 1 cup, and we have different images that we collected over the last years in the Mediterranean and some in Myanmar as well. And most of them are actually taken with the camera, which was given to us by Paralens, so the company that makes them. And they are really useful little beasts, really.
Better than a GoPro.
I like them a lot better than a
Yeah.
GoPro. GoPro is great for what it's designed to do. I mean, it's an action camera, you can throw it in the mud, you can take skiing or whatever.
But this is purely underwater.
But this is made for underwater and it's great at it. So it measures the depth, you can overlay it in images. So, I'm not sure if it's on this one. Nope, on the other one.
Yeah.
So you can see the temperature and depth that every image was taken in if you decide to overlay. And according to the depth, it also changes the color of the images, because the deeper you go, the more color you lose.
Yeah.
Being a videographer,
Yes.
you probably
Yes, of course.
witnessed that at
Yes.
some stage.
So you've got some beautiful pictures of seagrass, and I know that's one of the things that you're here to protect.
Yes, exactly. So seagrass, especially in the Mediterranean, well, we have a few different kinds of seagrass, and Posidonia is really the big one. So it's the only one, if you ever jump in the water in the Mediterranean in wintertime and see seagrass, it's Posidonia. All the others basically die off over the winter, and then they grow back in spring. And especially in the Northern Adriatic, in the last years, we've been losing it in massive amounts. So now you guys just came down to the coast of Istria as well. So if you went snorkeling, I know it was pretty cold,
It was.
you would have realized that there's hardly any seagrass, if any.
And is that a recent loss then, the seagrass?
It happened in the last, well, by now it's 7 years,
Yeah.
but really it happened within 3 years, about 7 years ago,
Yeah.
that it all just vanished.
Yeah.
And at the time nobody really had a proper answer to it.
Yeah.
There was, of course, many ideas, many speculations. But
So what needs to be done? I mean, because as a sailor, if anyone that's sailed the Med, they'll realise the massive difference between places like the Balearics, where it's protected to such a level that even if your chain goes over it, there will be a boat there immediately telling you to move, and you're not allowed to have even your chain touch the seagrass. Whereas you move, as we did, just a few days later, a week or so later, to Italy, to the Aeolian Islands, and they couldn't care less. It seems you can anchor wherever you want. What's happening there?
so the thing is that Posidonia or seagrass is protected. So the theory is you shouldn't be touching it. You can't collect it, you can't do anything to it. The reality is that it's not reinforced at all, unless you go to the Balearics. Spain is doing really well. Everywhere else, yes, it is still protected, but the authorities just don't care enough. And I think for the most part it's just a lack of education.
Yeah.
Even if you talk to the locals here, and that's one of the things that the guys who we met in Seagrass told us as well. The locals don't like the seagrass.
Yeah.
As kids, they are worried about swimming over it.
Yeah.
Just like every tourist that comes in from Austria, Germany, or anywhere else in the world,
Yeah.
it's just spooky looking.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
tell us then, why is it so important?
If you ever went to the tropics and saw a beautiful coral reef teeming with life, lots of colorful fish, all of that, the seagrass is exactly the same. It's just not as sexy. So really the big mission is to make seagrass
So
more
it's
sexy.
actually the coral of this area.
It is the lungs of the Mediterranean. So
Yeah.
they say about 25% of every species that lives in the entire Mediterranean spends part of its life in the seagrass. So that again means if the seagrass is not there, you will eventually lose those 25%. And you look around, if you go swimming, most of the fish you see would be lipfish, especially in the shallow waters. And all of those, as babies, they are green, tiny sized, and they hide in the seagrass. And the little green fish will just very much stand out if it's swimming over a rock. So then they would be easy to hunt.
Yeah.
I see.
I mean, obviously, we've got quite a good experiment going on here then, because you've had the Balearics, which for a number of years have been massively protecting it, and elsewhere they haven't. What's been the outcome of that? Has anyone done any research to know how quick it recovers, if it does recover?
There is a couple of NGOs that are working in Spain, in the Balearics. Specifically, there's the Save the Med Foundation that are pretty active there. And the seagrass meadows there are at least not getting worse. So they are on a fairly steady point right now, which is a lot more than we can say about most of the other parts of the mat.
Sure. Because it's not just about anchoring, is it? It's about temperature change of water, is it, as well? Yeah, and that's obviously not...
So anchoring is really one of many things that influence the seagrass.
Yeah.
So nutrients is one, the temperature is one, drag nets, horrible.
Yeah, yeah.
And they can take out hundreds of meters of seagrass in one go.
Yeah, yeah.
But then even a small anchor, I mean, ours is about half a meter wide. So if you drag your anchor 10 meters, say,
Yeah,
it takes a good 25 years for that gap to close again.
yeah. And you almost certainly will drag because it's a bugger to anchor in, isn't it? It's,
Yeah.
If you ever dropped it in there by accident, you'll know that it...
That's the thing.
it'll
Everybody
drag.
who ever dragged anchor or dropped anchor in seagrass in
Yeah.
shitty weather
Yeah,
will have realized it doesn't work.
yeah,
So just aim for the sand patch.
yeah.
Now, Pina, I want to ask you. You're having a holiday, I believe, this week with just the
Yes,
two of you
it
on
is.
board. Usually, there are up to 6 people here on the boat. What's that like?
It's really busy. Everyone is different, and depending on the motivation of the day, if we see dolphins, everyone is excited really because we do dolphin watch while we're on the way, and that day is perfect. But if we don't see any on the way, if we arrive in a new location, if the weather is cold, the mood would be a little down. But if you bake a cake, everyone is happy. That's what I found.
You'd been working for Greenpeace for a number of years, hadn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you decided to then have a smaller, your own NGO to do the focus on the work that you wanted to do. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because, well, I spent many years on Greenpeace ships and also working with other NGOs.
yeah,
And ultimately, I found that many of the things that we do with the big ships can really be done on a very small scale.
yeah,
Like on Rainbow Warrior, we had the plastics campaign in the Mediterranean, and basically we ended up using a 60-meter ship under engine at the time
yeah,
to tow a plankton net that was about this size,
yeah.
and just seemed like a slight bit of overkill. And you can
Well,
do the exact same
they-
thing on
We have.
tiny budget.
Yes, we've had, we had many dealings with NGOs, and they seem, I mean, they do good work, but as they get bigger, they seem to get more wasteful, don't they? The money that they go, if you're giving to somewhere like that, more of the money will go to what it where it needs to. If it's a smaller operation like yours, we've found.
Yeah, but that's just, I think, part of the very nature of big NGOs.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's an NGO or a company, the bigger it grows, the more administration, the more background
Yes.
work, the more offices,
Yeah.
I don't know, running
Yeah.
costs, it all
Yeah.
just explodes in your face.
Yes.
Just like getting a bigger boat.
Yeah.
The costs just go
Exponentially,
exponentially up.
yeah.
So what's the
every meter.
philosophy here then? How do you work, and how do you get your science back, if you like, into the world?
Keep it simple, really. I mean, we found our balance now with the 43 feet that we have here.
Yeah.
So just close to 13.5 meters, which is enough space for 6 people in comfort. And we can only do what we can do. So throwing a plankton net, easy. We have an ROV, we have the underwater cameras. We don't use diving gear just because it's legally an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
So we try to stay away from everything that could cause extra trouble. But a lot can be done with that. And in terms of seagrass or invasive species, most of the work that we are doing is really just jumping in the water and observing what we see. And then you document it. You take pictures and videos of everything, and that's about as far as it has to go. And in recent years, there was things like Pinna nobilis, like the giant
Yeah.
clamshells.
Yeah.
They've been dying off throughout the entire Mediterranean.
Yeah.
And last year we were just getting lucky, taking a picture of one of the last living ones in Croatia. And now I think they're counting 7 in the entire coastline.
Really?
Wow.
I've seen signs around saying, they're protected and you mustn't touch, but they're down to 7. That's amazing.
Yeah, so 7 individuals
Yeah.
along the entire
Wow.
hundreds of miles of coastline in Croatia.
Yeah.
So you just get lucky at times. But the same thing is true for species that come in from the south. So like by now we have lionfish in Croatia.
Yeah.
We have pufferfish in Croatia.
Yeah.
We have the rabbitfish, which is just intruding all over the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
And they slowly make their way north. And then so the data collection is the one thing, and the other part is getting the word out. And yeah, I have to say I slowly moved away from the academic side of things.
Yeah.
Because yes, writing papers is a nice thing, and yes, that's how you get your credentials up and how you get acknowledged in the academic world. But if you write a paper and you're incredibly lucky over the course of the next 5 years, maybe 10 people read the thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's be honest here.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
And I made myself a lot of enemies at symposiums where I did presentations on, well, I kind of sneaked in talking about invasive species at the time. And then I just made a very strong point out of what the hell is it that we're doing here?
yeah,
Because we, like in this room right now, it's all marine biologists, and we're all so damn comfortable in our little offices doing our little research
Yeah.
work,
yeah,
and we are just unable to communicate what it is we're doing to the world. So if we are not the ones who can convince the rest of the world that it's important work that we're doing, then who the hell is going to do it? So
And what can we do as non-biologists, non-scientists, if
Yeah.
you like? What can we do to clean up the environment or to make a difference?
well, since you started with cleaning up, that's actually something that everyone can do. If you look around, I didn't see a single really clean beach this year. And we do the dolphin watch as we are on the way all the time, and we also take note of all the rubbish we see floating past. And on average, I would say we see about 100 times more rubbish than marine life.
yeah,
So it is everywhere,
Yeah.
and it's not a lot of work to just take it back with you, and if
Yeah.
you see a lot of rubbish, just pick it up.
But for your average boater that thinks that they want to do right by the oceans, they're not going to throw rubbish in. They maybe pick some stuff up as they go along if they can. What's the other steps that can be done? For the equipment that they have, or what they could actually do with their time and effort to help. Is there anything?
There's a couple of things that everyone can do actually. So, well, for one, if you anchor, try not to aim for the seagrass. Not just for the seagrass sakes, but also your own better sleep.
Yep.
If it is your own boat, you might want to consider to look into anti-fouling options a little bit more, because some of them are just pure toxic stuff that you put on your hull.
Yeah.
Because basically what it's doing, it's killing everything that tries to grow on it.
Yeah.
And obviously it's always leaking toxins into the water.
But this is a difficult one for yachtsmen, isn't it? Because you think, I want the strongest thing because I don't want things growing on my hull. Now, there are alternatives, aren't they? Copper Coat 1, and you're using Hempel Silica 1, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how do you find that?
So far, I'm really impressed.
Yeah.
So it's now our second season. We didn't haul out over the last winter, so the boat was non-stop in the water.
Okay.
In a marina in Monfalcone, which tends to have a lot of growth.
Yeah.
And, well, I was really worried about what I'm going to see the first time I jump in.
Yeah.
And the hull was mostly spotless.
Yeah, that's good because
That's better than
you're not
ours.
doing a lot of speed. I mean, it's supposed to be 8 knots, isn't it? To their stats say it's really
Yeah.
for motorboats or faster.
Yeah, but my thinking was, okay, worst case, I jump in, I take a sponge and just wipe down the entire hull.
and it comes
But
off.
it was not necessary.
Really?
It
Okay.
Wow.
was just smooth.
Well, that's if you look at the state of our hull after 9 months in Venice,
Yeah.
I'm down there every day. It's great, have been for the last
And
2
scraping,
weeks.
not just a sponge,
Scraping,
isn't it?
properly scraping. Yeah, a lot of growth.
Yeah, scraping is the one thing you shouldn't do with the Silic one. And actually, the one spot where we do have a lot of growth is where we ran aground.
Otherwise,
So
yes,
it
so it's
is
taking it off. Yeah,
pretty sensitive paint. So
Yeah.
if you do run aground,
yeah,
nobody aims to, but
yeah.
that's where you're going to have growth.
So it should last 3 years before we coach it?
They say 5 years.
5 years, okay.
So
Yeah.
yet to see if that really stands up.
But similar to Copper Coat, quite a bit of preparation because you've got to take the old stuff off,
Yeah,
presumably.
we did actually take it down to bare steel
Yeah,
before we put on the new
Yeah.
stuff, and then it was 5-6 coats of the light primer,
yeah,
then the tie coat, and then Silic one.
yeah.
And we went a little overboard there because we had too much paint.
Yeah.
So we did 5 coats of Silic
Wow.
fire.
Oh, well,
Why not?
okay.
And we always alternated, so it's red, black, red, black, red,
Yeah,
black.
yeah, very good. Yeah. So you've always been involved in this, obviously half a lifetime or more of studying this. What's the standout moments for you?
Few.
Mm.
Myanmar was definitely one of the highlights.
Mm.
I have had the privilege of traveling around the world and going diving in some of the most amazing spots.
Mm.
But Myanmar was just the top of it. At the time there was 20 boats that were allowed to go into these 800 islands, and we
Wow.
were one of them.
Yeah,
Wow.
So that was quite a privilege, and it was incredible. Of course, you also see the downside that people go dynamite fishing there, and you have to be rather careful about touching plastic bags because it might just explode in your face. But just seeing all of this was definitely one of the wow moments in my life.
Mm.
But then also here in the Mediterranean you have so many things that just blow your mind every day. I mean, we were in Crete for a couple of years, or we came back every year, and first time they called us in because they saw a lionfish and just couldn't believe it. So lionfish usually is in tropical water, so it really shouldn't be there. And then we came back the year after, and every dive they saw 3, 4, 5 sometimes. And year 3, on the good dives, they saw 100 of them. Wow. So you just see populations exploding.
Yeah.
Another one was going out with the local fishermen in Greece. It was a brilliant night.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it was emotionally kind of torn, because you watch him pull out all these animals, and it's like, oh boy, should I really be here? It's just, it feels so wrong in so many ways.
Yeah.
But then seeing what it is he pulls out was quite a learning curve.
Yeah.
He had 3 kilometers of net, and there was maybe a small bucket full of fish that he could actually sell.
Really? Yeah.
But then there was also about 20 lionfish and a good 100 pufferfish, which are highly toxic, so you can't eat them. It's just straightforward rubbish for him.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't be in the Mediterranean. So that alone makes it fairly clear that the newcomers are basically taking over the environment there.
Yeah.
But then you also have some of the most gorgeous things here. I mean, yes, seagrass is on first sight super boring. I do admit that, and it's just a green patch, and if you look closer,
yes,
you
it
see a
hasn't
lot
got
of
the
leaves,
attraction of coral quite, has it?
No, that's
even though
the
it's
thing.
a similar
It's just not as pretty.
ecosystem. No.
But if you take your time and you go down and you look closer, you see hundreds of shrimp, you see all the little fish, you see tons of crabs. There's a lot going on in seagrass.
Yes. Yeah.
And we found in Stupa in Greece, like southern Peloponnesos, since you're going around there, that was some of the most amazing meadows we ever saw.
Yeah.
And they were around freshwater springs. That was another learning curve. But we anchored next to them, and I figured, okay, I'm just going to quickly jump in and check on the anchor. At the time, the water temperatures were around 25, 26 degrees usually.
Yeah.
I jumped in, the water was freaking 18 degrees.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's fine. Back out. But the meadows there were so dense, it was incredible.
Yeah.
So one of the ways we figure out how healthy a meadow is, you basically count the shoots.
Yeah.
So the bundles of leaves that come out of the ground.
Yeah.
And on a good meadow in Greece, you would say around 500 to 700 shoots per square meter. And there we cracked 1,000 easy.
Wow.
So just counting them turned into a nightmare. Like,
Yeah. Lastly then, I don't think we've talked about fishing. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to go through. A little bit about fishing. One of the big sort of changes I've seen over the years coming to Mediterranean over sort of 35, 40 years is the amount of fish farms. It seems to be enormous. What's the the upshot of that, of having that many more? Is there any sort of, I'm sure there's been loads of studies done on this.
Fish farms come with all sorts of ups and downs. So, I mean, the original idea was if you grow your fish in a farm, you don't have to catch it in the wild.
Yeah.
Great. So, super nice idea, not quite thought through. So, whenever you have loads of fish in one spot, obviously you have to feed them.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But whenever you feed a lot of fish in the same spot, there's something coming out on the other side of them.
Yep.
So that means loads of nutrition in a very somewhat enclosed space. So usually you have all the farms in one bay.
And not good nutrients that are coming out.
No,
the back of them.
not necessarily good ones. So that means you have basically too many nutrients in one bay. You have algae just exploding, and at some point, well, the algae starts rotting, and whenever something is rotting, it takes the oxygen out of the system, and when there's no oxygen left in the system, everything dies.
Yeah.
So that's how you end up with dead zones.
Yeah.
Which happens around the River Po, and which happens where there's loads of fish farms.
Yeah. No, we've seen it even in open bays in Spain. We anchored behind a fish farm. Well, about 5 fish farms, all on the outskirts of this. And the water in there was terrible, wasn't it? And
But you
just
can
the next bay
move
was
them
fine.
though, can't you?
You could. I'm not sure how many people really do it, but in theory you can move them. I mean, they're basically anchored on a couple of concrete
Yeah,
blocks.
yeah.
And you
Exactly,
can
We came
push
across
them
one
around.
in the middle of the Mediterranean, sailing between Sardinia and Italy, and Sicily. I mean, in the middle of nowhere, moving at 2 knots in the middle of the night.
We thought we were going to hit an
And I
island.
thought, what on earth is this?
It
and
wasn't
the lights,
one.
and
Yes.
I couldn't make out
exactly-
what it was.
that's
And
what
it was
it looked
someone
like.
towing a fish farm.
What time of the year?
September,
Okay.
July,
So
August.
then it was
August.
probably tuna.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So the
Ah,
way they
it's-
catch tuna is they have these big prosane nets,
Yeah.
and they circle them around, and then they just keep the net open until somebody tows a cage out at
Yeah.
about 2 knots. They are
Yeah.
ridiculously slow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then the tuna gets transferred into the cage, They
Yeah.
pull them to shore, they feed them for the entire year,
Yeah.
and then when winter is coming, they shoot them one by one.
Yeah.
Because you can't pull out the whole net of tuna,
No.
because
No.
they basically heat themselves up from the inside out, and they would boil their own meat, which then decreases the value, and it's bluefin tuna, so it's really, really expensive stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what's happening there.